So is it wishful thinking to believe that Brent Venables can once again go back to the well and hire an elite level defensive coordinator to replace the now departed Zac Alley? And in the same vein, was it a chicken move on the part of Zac Alley to take the defensive coordinator and assistant head coach position at West Virginia just a day after telling all the players on his defense that he'd return to Norman in 2025? Let's talk about it. Welcome back to Hall of Fame College Football. I'm your host, Jason Watkins, and if you love college football, you know you're in the right place. So before you forget, smash that red subscriber button, like our videos, and don't forget to ring the bell so you don't miss one moment of Hall of Fame College Football. Zac Alley takes the position of defensive coordinator and assistant head coach at the University of West Virginia. It feels like a lateral move at best. And let's just be honest, it's a step down if you're Zac Alley. So why did he take it? What reason would you have for taking it? For more money? Is it a problem and a concern of his that there's not a lot of stability as far as being on the staff at Oklahoma, where Brent Venables is firmly on the hot seat heading into 2025? Good question. It's a good question. And was there possibly the opportunity for somebody like Wes Goodwin at Clemson to be headed this way, and therefore Venables himself told him maybe he should take a second look at the position? These are all valid questions. None of us really know the answer to it because Venables isn't talking, and we haven't heard anything else from Alley either. What else is new? There's also the distinct possibility that maybe Alley wasn't really in charge of this defense in 2024 either. You know, Venables made it clear that he wasn't in any big hurry to let anybody know who was in charge of it to begin with, all the way back in the spring and then again in the fall camp time. He wanted to let everybody guess at who was in charge. Maybe, just maybe, it always continued to be Brent Venables. You know, he had his hands on it, but most people, I think, assumed that because Alley had cut his teeth under Venables, everybody was calling him, you know, mini BV, or even Zac himself said he was like a second dad. So maybe he felt like maybe we all just kind of assumed that he did give him the full reins and let him run the defense as he pleased. But maybe that wasn't the case. In any event, he's no longer here. He decided to take the job at West Virginia, where he will presumably have all the power to run the 3-3-5 or whatever other defense he decides he wants to run. And he's the assistant head coach, making somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.56 million. A number that one could assume was probably matched by Oklahoma, but, or maybe it wasn't. And let's think about why. At first, I asked if it was wishful thinking to think that Venables could go ahead and hire another elite level defensive coordinator. Turns out, Wes Goodwin may be looking for a position. The soon to be former Clemson defensive coordinator who took over for Venables when he left the Tigers and Dabo Swinney now 3 years ago, appears to be on his way out for whatever reason. Well, probably because they couldn't stop anybody in the Texas game in the playoff. In any event, is that really the best move for Venables? Would you consider him elite? I don't know. I think that the folks at Clemson would tell you probably not. Fans there and some people, but some of the people in the Oklahoma circles would tell you, yes, that's the right guy to bring in. I would tell you that I believe that the right guy is already on your staff, probably 2 coaches, one of which is already a defensive coordinator, co-defensive coordinator, Todd Bates. Or you could go with a 2-time DC, successful DC at that, probably the best recruiter on that defensive staff, Brandon Hall. This seems to be the right choice, in my opinion. But that doesn't mean you wouldn't go ahead and hire Goodwin if he does become available here over the next day or 2. Now, is that an elite choice? You've got people saying all this PTSD stuff. I'm not one of those people that buys all that. The PTSD on the offensive side of the ball that you might have over what happened last year, which is why they didn't want to make an in-house hire or whatever. You hear a lot of fans talking about that kind of crap here on YouTube or Twitter or wherever the hell that they spew nonsense at. Doesn't concern me at all. I don't think that the defensive staff really has to make a hire at all, to be quite honest with you, because no matter who they make DC in name, I think you pretty much consider that running this defense will continue to be Brent Venables himself. As we talked about, he never really gave any indication as to who was actually calling the plays. You could see that the plays were being signaled and called in to Danny Stutzman or whatever by Zac Alley, but that doesn't mean that the game plan wasn't put together by Venables to begin with, or even radioed over to him and told exactly what you're going to do in this certain situation. Now, I don't doubt that there were certain things that Alley was doing that he liked to employ. Like, we know that he is a fan of the 3-3-5. I don't think that Venables is quite that fan. You didn't see a ton of it throughout the year. A little bit in the Tulane game, maybe a slight bit in the Tennessee game. I don't recall seeing it a ton other than that. I don't think it works particularly well in the SEC either, just in my opinion. But that being said, do you even need to hire anyone? The offseason and throughout the offseason that he continued to call plays and run the defense. So did he? If so, I'd agree it would be hard to get anyone elite to join from the outside, particularly if you subscribe to the narrative that's out there that says Brent Venables is on the hot seat. He's got to win an X amount of games or he's in trouble. There's mixed feelings on that from a lot of people. I believe that you probably have to win 8 games or so to really be considered safe. Although I'm not sure that the money that makes the decisions at Oklahoma is exactly ready to give him $35 million to walk away when they're recruiting the way that they are. And if you can show that you're moving in the right direction next year, particularly with the schedule that they have coming. Now, was it a chicken move by Zac Alley to leave? I think that if it's true that he spoke to players the day of the game, the bowl game against Navy, and informed those players on his defense that he would be returning, and then a day later decided against it without saying anything, then yeah, that's pretty chicken shit. Some would say that maybe that was what Venables wanted, was for him to not talk to him anymore. And I can see that, because you don't want him tampering with him and, telling him to come with him to West Virginia. Now, I would also say, though, that That's not the only thing that I would consider kind of a chicken shit move by this coach. To me, I think it's a weak sauce move all the way around. You're taking a step down to go work with Rich Rod, a retread at West Virginia, and for a program that hasn't really sniffed a Big 12 championship in its tenure and hasn't been good since Pat White was around and Rich Rod's first go around as head coach of the Mountaineers. It feels like there has to be something to it. He has to either have been wanting more power to do things that he wanted to do, or felt like either that or he was concerned about his job security, as some people have stated on the West Virginia side. Which, by the way, West Virginia fans have become a bit ridiculous at this point, I got to tell you. I'll just say this, folks. We're not taking shots at West Virginia, but don't sit over here and pound your chest about what a better program you are than Oklahoma when you had the same record as OU, playing in a weak Big 12 in comparison to OU playing in the SEC. It ain't the same. And Oklahoma out-recruits you by a long shot. Maybe stop pounding that chest a little bit and realize that you got the Temu version of the best defensive play caller in the world. Not the authentic, real deal Brent Venables. It's mini Brent Venables. Pocket BV. Great value BV. Just remember that. But hey, happy for you guys that you got your man. Am I worried about Oklahoma? No. Oklahoma has picked up the number one player in the transfer portal in quarterback John Mateer, counted for the quarterback at Washington State this year. They have a quarterback already on the roster in Michael Hawkins that might be better than Mateer. And they have one of the most sought after and respected young offensive coordinators coming in to right the ship on that side of the ball. And that's really the only thing that was missing from this football team in year one in the SEC. No, the losses don't look great, but I'll tell you what, most of these games were super close and competitive, and you needed but a competent offense, which they never put together under Seth Luttrell and Joe John Finley. Injuries played their part, but you can't expect that to continue. And we know that Venables is going to make sure that that defense continues to move forward and get better year after year. I wouldn't go expecting too much that BV is out of a job next year. Wouldn't be so sure about that, because chances are he won't be. If his defense is anywhere near what it was this year, and most people think it'll be better, and that offense improves to, let's say, top 40 in the country, they're on pace to win probably 8 games or more, which will keep him safe. And, you know, I mean, I can't imagine what you think that your first-year coach is going to do there at West Virginia, but you never know. Tell me what you think in the comments. Is it a chicken-ish move? I'll just say the word. Was it a chicken shit move by Zac Alley to bounce the way that he did? Was it the right move for him to bounce the way he did? I'm sure I'll get a lot of that kind of stuff, but again, West Virginia fans, before you pound your chest a little bit, let's think about one thing. Maybe win one Big 12 championship first, and then start telling us about how much better you are than Oklahoma as a program. Let us know what you think in the comments. See you on the next one.